Article 297, attempted and frustrated robbery committed under certain circumstances. When by reason or on occasion of an attempted or frustrated robbery, a homicide is committed, the person guilty of such offenses shall be punished by reclusion temporal in its maximum period to reclusion perpetua, unless the homicide committed shall deserve a higher penalty under provisions of this code. The term homicide is used in the generic sense. Hence, it includes multiple homicides, murder, parricide, or even infanticide, as where the offenders killed a child 2 days old which was disturbed in its sleep and began to cry when they were about to take personal property in the house. The penalty is the same whether the robbery is attempted or frustrated. As long as homicide is committed by reason or on occasion of an attempted or frustrated robbery, the penalty of reclusion temporal in its maximum period to reclusion perpetua shall be imposed, unless the homicide committed shall deserve a higher penalty. The clause "unless the homicide committed shall deserve a higher penalty" under the provisions of this code may be illustrated thus. In an attempted or frustrated robbery, the killing of the victim is qualified by treachery or relationship. The proper penalty for murder or parricide shall be imposed because it is more severe. Attempted robbery with homicide. People versus Karunungan et al. Facts of the case: Lorenzo Vivas, his son, Hermogenes, and daughter-in-law were awakened by the presence below their house of appellants who asked for some water to drink. Serapio Karunungan, Manuel Boceta, and Felipe Mendoza went up and forced their way to the house. Karunungan made a demand to the inmates of the house to bring out their money. Lorenzo got hold of his own firearm and confronted the trio. All of a sudden, the intruder started firing at Lorenzo, who returned the fire. After the gunfire stopped, Lorenzo Vivas and Felipe Mendoza were found dead. Ruling, the court agrees with the Court of Appeals that the crime committed is attempted robbery with homicide. The demand made by Karunungan to the inmates of the house to bring out their money constitutes an overt act which leads to the commission of the robbery. If the robbery was not committed, it was because of armed resistance. The killing was apparently an offshoot of the plan to carry out the robbery. When there is no overt act of robbery. But where an armed band tried to stop passenger bus, the driver, sensing that the band might commit robbery, did not stop the bus, but drove it faster, and the members of the band then fired at it, killing one passenger and wounding another passenger, the driver. The crime should not or does not constitute attempted robbery with homicide, because no overt acts pointing to the robbery were established. The offenses committed are separate crimes of murder, frustrated murder, and physical injuries. Frustrated robbery with homicide. The accused agreed to rob 2 LCM boats from the Navy boat pool with the idea of selling them for profit. They disarmed the guard, and when they failed to take the boats because they could not start the motor, they killed the guard. Article 296 is applicable to attempted robbery with homicide by a band. Article 296 is applicable when the crime of attempted robbery with homicide is committed by a band. A, B, and C agreed to commit robbery. By their agreement, A and B went to the hut to watch the inmates, while C and D were to take away the carabaos. While D and C were untying the carabaos, they heard the scream, "Oh, save my life," which was interrupted by a pistol shot by B. Fearing that the shot might summon help, the accused escaped without taking the carabaos, although one of them had already been untied. Ruling, all are liable for the crime of attempted robbery with homicide, even if C and D did not enter the hut and did not take part in the assault. Special complex crime. Robbery with homicide and attempted or frustrated robbery with homicide are special complex crimes, not governed by Article 48 but by the special provisions of Article 294 and 297 respectively. When Article 48 is applicable in robbery. When the offense committed is attempted or frustrated robbery with serious physical injuries, Article 48 is applicable, since the felony would fall neither under Article 294, which covers consummated robbery with homicide, nor under Article 297, which covers attempted or frustrated robbery with homicide. When the crime committed is robbery with frustrated homicide, the penalty for the more serious crime, which is frustrated homicide, should be imposed in its maximum period as provided in Article 48. There's only one crime of attempted robbery with homicide, even if slight physical injuries were inflicted by other persons on the occasion or by reason of the robbery. The case of People versus Casalme et al. Facts of the case: on March 22, 1945, at about 9 in the evening, the defendants, on the pretext that a companion needed treatment, gained entrance in the house of Isidro Tolentino, a quack doctor. When asked who among them needed treatment, the defendant Casalme suddenly and without warning shot the old man, Isidro, with a Garand rifle, inflicting a wound from which Isidro died the next morning. Honorata Barquilla, wife of Isidro, grabbed a bolo and proceeded to hack the defendant Gamboa. Awakened by the commotion and upon seeing Gamboa struggling with his mother, Lucas Tolentino took hold of a knife and stabbed Gamboa in the back. One of the defendants tried to force open their aparador where the spouses kept their money and valuables, but Honorata prevented him from doing so. Because of the resistance offered by the mother and son, the intruders hurriedly left the house. Honorata and her son suffered slight physical injuries inflicted by the culprits. Prosecuted, the defendants were found guilty. Ruling: the trial court found the defendants guilty of 3 separate crimes, namely attempted robbery with homicide for the killing of Isidro Tolentino, the complex crime of attempted robbery with slight physical injuries for the wounding of Honorata Barquilla, and the same crime for wounding of Lucas Tolentino, as a result of which 3 separate penalties were imposed. Appellants are guilty only of 1 crime, namely attempted robbery with homicide and slight physical injuries under Article 297 of the Revised Penal Code, penalized with reclusion temporal in its maximum period to reclusion perpetua, and that due to the aggravating circumstances of nighttime dwelling and craft without any mitigating circumstances to offset the same, the greater penalty should be imposed, namely reclusion perpetua. Take note that the slight physical injury should be disregarded in the designation of the offense, for there is no such crime as attempted robbery with homicide and slight physical injuries. Article 297 speaks of attempted or frustrated robbery with homicide.